and welcome to Indie Business Radio for Monday, May 26, 2008. I'm your host, Donna Maria, and you have arrived at the one place where we empower you to enjoy your life, build your business, and have your way. Today's show is sponsored by Shea Radiance Natural and Organic Bath and Body Luxuries from Africa and beyond, all made with 100% pure shea butter. Bulk shea butter and black soap are available as well at wholesale and retail. Visit www.shearadiance.com and shearadiancesupplies.com. Well, happy Memorial Day. It is hard to believe that the start of the summer is nearly here. Today's show was taped last week, so we don't have live calls today, but as always, we've got a great guest and a wonderful guest co-host here to share the experiences and expertise you need to grow your business. Let me introduce my indie guest co-host today. She is Funlayo Alabi of Shea Radiance. Along with her husband, Funlayo imports shea butter products from Africa. She sells them in bulk at wholesale and also makes and sells bath and body products using shea butter and other natural and organic ingredients. Funlayo, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Donna Maria. Thanks for having me on.
Sure. Now, tell me a little bit about how you started this business and the transatlantic nature of it, and then we're going to transition to our guest today because we're going to be talking about something that's really near and dear to your heart. But let's start first by telling me how you got this business started, you and your husband.
Well, we kind of got started. There were a lot of reasons we got started, but one of the main things was that we had children with problem skin. Our 10-year-old son had major kidney problems when he was born, and before his transplant last January, which went really successfully, his skin was really, really dry. And then my 2-year-old was born with a case of baby eczema, so we had these children with really rough-looking skin, and we had tried everything the store had to offer. There were some steroids prescribed, and my husband had gone to Nigeria on business. He came back with a ball of shea butter, and we just started using it on the kids and, getting flashbacks of how our grandparents had used shea butter on us while we were growing up. And so from there, we started experimenting and, adding humectants to the mix, and we saw just incredible improvement in our children's skin. And the rest, as they say, is history.
So you wanted to share these wonderful products and ingredients with other people.
Yes, and the one of the other reasons we got started was when we started using shea butter, we wanted to start buying it online to make our products, and we were finding people talking about shea butter being green and orange and gray, and we were very concerned about that. And the more we researched, we found out that a lot of people who perhaps did not grow up using shea butter were buying products that maybe were a little funky or rancid but didn't know it. And, of course, shea butter is a very excellent product, so even when it's almost bad, it's still doing better than, anything you can get off the shelf at the drugstore. And so when we realized people were not getting the best shea butter possible, we decided that we would start shipping our shea butter directly from a partner in Ghana, where we had a little more control over the process, and we wanted to ship in the type of quality ingredient that we would use on our own family and on our own business and in our own products, and share that level of quality with other bath and body makers too.
Well, that's great. And Funlayo, you've been, of course, we met through your membership in the Indie Beauty Network, and lately we've been doing a lot of talking lately about the topic of today's show. We've been doing a lot of talking about online newsletters, and you have one, don't you?
Yes, I do. I have a weekly newsletter that I send out usually every Tuesday, but sometimes I fall a little behind and send it out on Thursday or Friday. And I had started rather unsuccessfully about a year ago, and when I started sitting in on the group coaching sessions that you've been holding on Thursdays, I think we really got into some in-depth sessions about blogging and newsletters about 2 months ago. And I just learned so much about what the purpose of the newsletter was and got a lot of ideas on things to share with customers and how to build goodwill and build a connection with your customers that was ongoing. And I found out that since I started practicing just a few of the things we talked about at the group coaching session, I've been getting a lot of feedback from my customers. Sometimes they make comments about, some of the things we share in the newsletter. I'm sure there's a direct relationship to sales. I can't exactly tie it together yet, but I'm hearing back more from my customers. I don't feel like I'm out there all by myself just throwing information out, but I'm actually getting feedback, and it's very encouraging.
Well, thank you for sharing that information, and I'm glad I asked you about that because you are just like the perfectly tailored guest co-host for today's show because our guest is an expert at online newsletters. She is Kitara Wilson. She is the writing Wonder Woman and the author of an ebook entitled Captivating Content, Success Stories and Expert Advice on Using E-Zines to Skyrocket Your Business. This book contains Kitara's interviews with 10 entrepreneurs who have used email newsletters or e-zines, whichever ones you want to call them, to grow their businesses. There are real-life examples used by both traditional and Internet entrepreneurs who have used email newsletters to grow, expand, and more efficiently manage their businesses. And I am so excited to have the Writing Wonder Woman here on Indie Business Radio today. Welcome, Kitara.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here.
Well, your book is such a wealth of information. It's well over 100 pages, guys. So it's definitely worth adding to your library. But tell me a little bit about you, Kitara. We're going to be talking a lot about email newsletters. But first, I want to familiarize listeners with who you are. You're a wife. You're a mom. You're an entrepreneur. Tell us how you got started with this business and the writing Wonder Woman.
Thank you for asking. I have been writing for as long as I can remember. I was one of those kids in school, in elementary school, not even just high school, but if you were given an assignment in class to write just a 3-page essay, I'd turn in a 10-page essay. So writing has just always been something that has naturally been within me. It's just what I do. Mm-hmm. And, over the years, I didn't know what to do with it. I just knew that was the God-given gift that I had. And so, like a lot of people, I had traditional jobs. I kind of fumbled here and there, but I always felt in my spirit that I should be doing my own thing, whatever that was. And it took some trial and error for me to finally realize that my own thing probably should include what I'm good at, which is writing. So I eventually my last corporate job was in internal communications at a retailer, and I was able to use my writing skills there, but I definitely still wanted to do my own thing. So a couple of years ago, my husband and I mapped out a plan for me to be able to be home and to still work on my business and to still contribute to the household, not only by being home with the kids, but as well as nurturing my own career aspirations. So I've been home and doing my own thing coming up on 2 years now, but even before I traditionally started a business, I was writing for other people for a long time for free, and then kind of started charging people here and there, and then really decided to take it on to a serious business venture.
So you are a true indie in every sense of the word, and I appreciate you sharing that. Now, how many children do you have?
I have 2, a 7-year-old son and a 3-year-old daughter. Okay,
and so I know people probably ask you all the time, how do you balance all that? So I'm not going to ask you that question. I'm just going to ask you, what's it like to be so successful at what you do? I mean, you've got a great ebook, your website is nicely done, and plus you're also managing your home. How do you manage all that?
I don't know.
Okay.
I just take it day by day, and for a while I was honestly just very frustrated with how to balance it all. And someone told me that she had been told that as a mom entrepreneur, sometimes something just has to go. So you can't worry about the dishes in the sink, the laundry that needs to be done, or the toys that are all over the floor. those will get taken care of, but you'll get to them eventually. So at this point, as long as my kids are clean and fed and we spend a little time together, I spend some time with my husband, I'll get to that other stuff.
Right.
And that's pretty much how I look at it. It's just, it works itself out.
So, Kitara, we all know what email newsletters are, and we all know that they're important. So my first question for you along these lines is whether or not you find that people still find it difficult to successfully and consistently publish one, even though, it's no secret that email newsletters, they can work and they're effective, they're important to your business. What's your experience in that regard?
People do still find it difficult, and I think more of it is intimidation than anything. I think that people are afraid of the process because their initial thought may be, well, I'm not a writer. I don't know how to write. I don't know what to talk about. I don't know what to say. And then their next thought is they are on someone else's list and they're receiving someone else's e-zine, and if it's HTML, it's beautiful, it's glossy, it's slick, and they think that they have to have some kind of skill in order to do that. So they back away from it because they think that it's just far beyond their capabilities, when it's really simpler than they think. You don't have to be the writer. There are article banks online that you can purchase articles that fit the content and topic of your business that you can purchase and use. You can hire writers. And then as far as making the e-zines pretty, places like Constant Contact have HTML versions with templates. If you can use Word and cut and paste, you can use these programs and send out phenomenal email newsletters and, look just as good as the people whose list you already belong to.
So when you're moving people from, the concept to the action, do you find that the things that you share, just the fact that there's resources out there to help you, does that get people moving? Does it get them going, or do they need more than that?
I think they need a little bit more than that. So leveraging the tools that are out there, those tools being articles or ghostwriters, to take care of the content if you're not comfortable with doing that yourself. The other thing to get them moving is the time management, because you will find that I have several colleagues and friends who have businesses that they say, I don't send out my e-zine as much as I should or as often as I should. And part of that is because of time management. I would recommend that if you are just getting started with an e-zine, or even if you have one and you're not sending it out as consistently as you should, think about how often you want to send out. Some people want to be aggressive and do once a week. If you can do once a week, that's great. But if that's too much for you, think about every other week. And I would say if that's still too much, at the longest length of time you should go between staying in touch with your customers, think about doing once a month. And then whatever you plan for your regular schedule, calendar it out. Manage your time. Take an hour or two and sit down and plan what your e-zine is going to be about for each upcoming issue. Calendar it out, talk about articles, what the topic is, what the theme is, and I think that once they get that time management piece in place, that definitely helps them, because I have friends who fly by the seat of their pants and they are thinking up the content for their e-zine, moments before they get ready to send it out. So if you plan ahead, then it takes some of that overwhelm away of, I just can't keep up with this.
So, Kitara, is the first step, let's say let's just assume that somebody out there doesn't have a newsletter, but they know they need one. Is the first step to think about what your frequency is going to be, or is the first step to think about what exactly your format and your topics are going to be? Which one comes first, logically?
I think logically, when you talk about you want to add an e-zine to your strategy, you need to think about what value is it that you're going to be giving to your readers. So definitely the content and the format is going to be important. What is it that you're going to be sharing with them on a regular and consistent basis that is going to help move their business forward? And from there, once you have identified that, Then think about the frequency and know your audience. Are they the kind of audience that will be overwhelmed if you're emailing them every week? If so, then perhaps every other week or once a month might be better. But if your audience is one that is hungry for information and content, then a once-a-week format might be better.
So when we come back, Kitara, we're going to be asking you some questions about how to decide what that content should be, because I think that stumps a lot of people. This is Indie Business Radio. We have our guest, Kitara Wilson, the writing Wonder Woman, with us today, and also my guest, indie co-host, Funlayo Alabi of ShayRadiance.com. This is Donna Maria. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back.
Why is everyone listening to GlobalTalkRadio.com? Because it's the future of talk radio. Every day, more and more people are finding Internet radio as not just an alternative media, but as a replacement to traditional AM and FM broadcast stations. Internet radio offers a wider variety of programs, convenient on-demand listening that meets your schedule, and fewer commercial interruptions. And GlobalTalkRadio.com is already leading the way by matching this content with a highly targeted Internet audience. GlobalTalkRadio.com offers its listeners one of the widest programming varieties on the Internet, from business and finance to self-improvement, paranormal, health, literature, romance, politics, and more. There are also opportunities for prospective hosts who would like to host their own weekly or one-time talk shows. Want to learn more? Check us out at www.globaltalkradio.com and see the future of talk radio today.
Welcome back. I want to let you guys know that next week on June the 2nd, my guest will be Robert Scrobb. He is the author of the official Get Rich Guide to Information Marketing, and he has helped lots and lots of people make a business out of helping other people learn new things. He'll be on hand to share how to use your expertise, the information, the knowledge, the know-how that you've gathered over the years to create and sell information-based products to create a healthy income that's either 100% of your income or complementary to the one that you already have. That's going to be June the 2nd. My guest will be Robert Scrobb. But right now we are here with the writing Wonder Woman, Kitara Wilson, and my guest indie co-host, Funlayo Alabi of Shay Radiance. And Kitara, before we took our break, we were talking a little bit about the challenges people face in coming up with the content to put in their publication. How do you help people do that? What are some of the best tips that you have in that area?
Probably one of the best recommendations I can make to people is to think of your audience. What is your audience's main beef or problem that they have? Whatever product or service you are offering, it's obviously a solution to a problem that someone else has. So let's take Funlayo's business, for example. She offers shea butter, and she came into contact with the shea butter because of a problem that she was facing and experiencing with her children's skin. So she could possibly take that and look at some of her own frustrations that she has as a mom and think like her customer. And, what would my customer want to know? What questions could I answer for them to help them in their journey to heal their children's skin or to heal their own skin? What can I give them? If you kind of run out of ideas in doing that, then the next best thing to do in your newsletter is by all means engage your audience. Ask them what they want to know about. People love to be interactive and they love to be involved and they like to feel like they are a part of the process. So if in one of your issues, if you put out there, hey, what problems are you guys facing right now? Email me and let me know. You can take that information from those emails that you get and that correspondence that people are giving you, and you can turn that into content. And by offering to use people's own questions and experiences and feedback, that will give you a continuous flow of content to work with, and interchanging that with articles or ideas that you come up with, you should never run out of ideas of, what kind of information to give people in your issues.
And so, Fanlaya, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I had a quick question about the content and interacting with your customers.
Sure.
I had an experience, and I wanted to kind of run it by someone about when maybe you've shared a little too much in your newsletter, because my newsletter is a little personal. I talk about what we're doing, and I have it kind of broken down into 3 or 4 areas where I start off with something inspirational about maybe something that happened or something I read, or maybe something in a business journal about, someone doing something exceptional, and then I do some lifestyle and green living and then words of wisdom. But last week I had gotten some feedback from my newsletter, from a lady who said that what I sent to her was offensive. And I'm always open to getting feedback, but I think the inspirational piece I shared was something I heard on NPR about a girl who was in church and then decided to start feeding the hungry, and felt that was truly what living her faith was all about, kind of rubbing shoulders with the down and out and everything. And I think for the word of wisdom that week, I quoted something from the Bible about, whatsoever you do, and to the least of my brothers, that's you done unto me. And I found out that I had offended a customer. And so I guess my question to you is, as business owners, our businesses are extensions of who we are, what we believe. Should we be very careful about letting certain things like that spill over, or can we just, write what we want and, lose a few customers?
My honest opinion, Fanlayo, and the gut thing that is coming up for me is be who you are. That is who you are, and that is where you are in your life. Religion and spirituality can be tricky for a lot of people, and some people will embrace it, and other people will find offense to it. And if that was one customer out of however many you have on your list, chances are that the rest of the people embraced it. And the truth of the matter is that we just cannot please all of the people all of the time. Somebody somewhere along the way just isn't going to like something that we say. They're not going to like our hair, our shoes, or whatever it is. We just can't please everybody. So that's why you just have to be who you are. And I think that I wouldn't have found offense in it. It definitely would have been something inspirational and uplifting, and it was your intention was completely positive. You weren't trying to convert anyone or, do any of that kind of stuff. So I think that your intentions were perfectly pure, and just be comfortable in when you feel inspired to share something like that, go for it.
Fanlayo raises an interesting issue, from a spiritual perspective, but also, Kitara, how do you know when it's just too much information? You know what I mean? People go, ooh, that's too much information.
I think that there might be a fine line between how you do that. Now, for some people, they have newsletters that they don't share anything personal, so you don't feel like you know who this person is behind the e-zine and what they're about. People like to kind of feel like they know you because, honestly, at the end of the day, when you do business with someone, if you're comparing two businesses and they have identical services, 9 times out of 10, when you seal the deal with someone, it's going to be the one that you felt like you had a connection with. So if I'm getting your newsletter and it feels cold because, you don't share with me that maybe you're coming up on a vacation or, I don't know, I don't feel like I know you. I just feel like it's just a stark business and that I might be a number. I'm going to go with the person who kind of gives me a little bit of the warm and fuzzies. Not everybody is like that, but I think it's okay to share a little bit. And it also depends on the nature of your business. Sharing little bits about, you're going on a vacation or your kids are graduating from high school or someone in your family is getting married. Those kinds of things are fine. It just gives people a little insight that you are a real person experiencing real things that are going on in life. And you might even, my kid broke his ankle yesterday, and so we've been running around crazy. Those kind of things could work too. And people, they connect with that because they know that you're real. But I have a woman who I featured in the ebook that Donna Maria mentioned earlier, and her business, it's so funny because she has a business that is based on pleasure parties, and she provides very fun and interesting toys to spice up romance. So you can imagine that her newsletter, which is very successful, goes way beyond too much information because of the content, but it works because that's the kind of audience that she has. So it depends on what kind of audience you have and if they are open to that.
Hey, Kitara, what is your take, based on your experience, on the value of offering original content that is not available elsewhere? I know you mentioned there are some resources for articles that you can republish in your newsletter with appropriate attribution. So tell me what you think about the value that original content brings to the table as opposed to something that, quite frankly, might be in someone else's newsletter that your customers subscribe to.
As a writer, I prefer original content. I definitely think that it makes you stand out, but I don't want to scare people listening into thinking that, oh no, now I have to write everything, and I can't do that, because you can purchase pre-written articles. Some of them are called PLR, or private label rights articles, that you can purchase, and you can switch them up, change them around, rework them so that they fit you and they sound like you. So even if 20 people bought the same article, if all 20 of those people changed it up a little bit, then that afterwards you wouldn't recognize it, especially if you changed it up enough. You wouldn't recognize it one from the other. So in that sense, it does make it unique. So that is still a solution to purchasing, pre-produced articles. You can still rework them. Now, if you want to reprint someone else's article, like, for example, you're on someone else's list and you get their e-zine, they have this wonderful article, and usually at the bottom there's a blurb that you are free to reprint and reuse the article just so long as you give the author their rights with their author bio at the bottom. I would say if it is a phenomenal topic and just really bang up great that your audience is going to benefit from 100%, then position it in your e-zine as a guest article, a feature article from guest, whoever who gave us permission to reprint this. Then that way people are aware that, you're pulling information from somewhere else, but because you found the content to be so great that you wanted to share it with them. And another thing that you can do is have guest authors, not just reprints of articles, but, contact with people in your network and, ask them would they mind providing a guest article in your e-zine. That also takes the pressure off of you having to write, and it's still original content because it's something that they wrote. They may use it in their e-zine, but it probably won't appear in, 20 other e-zines as with a pre-written article if people decide not to switch them up a bit. So there are definitely ways to get around that and to keep the content fresh and unique.
And what a great benefit to someone who could write. They would have access to your audience and be able to generate new leads for their business.
Absolutely. It's a win-win on both ends if you partner with people periodically. And even if you don't partner with the person directly, but you just take the article and reprint it with their permission rights, again, it's still a win-win because it's great content for your audience, and at the same time, it's helping that other person reach a group of people that they may not have otherwise been able to reach.
Amalia, that's a great tip.
Yes, it is.
And Kitara, where are some of your best resources for these private label articles?
It depends. I mean, there's so many different niches. It depends on what it is that you want to talk about. If you want to talk about food and recipes, there's PLR articles for that. If you're talking about business and internet marketing, there are some for those. I mean, the gamut is huge and wide open. I mean, if you just search PLR articles on Google, you're going to get a plethora of information on where to go to get these articles. And one caution I would give to people is some of these places, though, are membership sites. and they require that you pay a monthly membership fee, and then you get fresh content every month. And then other places will require you to just buy articles a la carte. So you have to determine what's best for you and your budget if you're going to do this all the time. If you are definitely not a writer and you're going to use this all the time, a membership site might be better. But if you're going to use it occasionally, then you want something where you can purchase a la carte.
Now, Kitara, let's talk a little bit about coming up with the departments or the format for your particular email newsletter. What are your tips for how to do that?
You mean as far as what to talk about, or like what sections to have in
the kind of what sections, because I remember when I started my newsletter 8 years ago, I just looked at regular magazines because there really weren't a whole lot of email newsletters to look at the time, and I noticed that every time I picked up the same magazine, even though it was 5 years later, they had the same departments, and a light bulb went off in my head. I was like, no, this isn't rocket science. So tell us what you think about that. Is that what you've experienced, and does that take some of the pressure off people in your experience?
I think it does, but then it also depends on how you want to deliver your e-zine. That plays a big part in it, too, because if you talk to some heavy-hitter Internet marketers, they don't send the HTML versions, which are the pretty e-zines that have the pictures and the colors and all the graphics. They send strictly text because they are wanting to make sure that at the end of the day, the majority of their issues were delivered to their list because they don't want them to get tripped up by spam filters. And HTML newsletters have a better chance of getting tripped up by the spam filters than pure text. So when you look at someone that has text, sometimes it's not as easily identifiable as those sections that they have as it is with an HTML newsletter. Some people offer both options. And what's great with places like Constant Contact or My Emma is that they give subscribers the option to choose HTML or text as their preferred deliver option. So if you choose that option, or if you go with strictly HTML, one of the things that I recommend to people is choose your formatting with what you feel comfortable with, like what you feel like would work for you. And pretty much kind of the standard in e-zine is that you might have kind of like a little note from you. Usually in a magazine it would be like, letter from the editor. So you would do a little introduction, just a quick overview of what's happening, quick note on, hey, this is what's going on, check this out in the feature article. And that also is the place where you might tell people a little bit about what's going on with you personally. And then you might move on to tell them about upcoming events. I know from my own e-zine, when I was putting it together, I was concerned about the term upcoming events because I thought, well, I may not always have an event of my own or even someone else's that I don't mind promoting that's coming up. So that might leave some inconsistencies in the e-zine if I, one issue have upcoming events, and then the next issue I don't have it, and then I have it again. So I just put in what's going on. So that section is just called What's Going On, because even if I don't have anything going on, I can make up something a little bit easier than actually having to be committed to talking about some kind of event. So
that is such a great tip because it's transferable to anything, and it keeps you from getting hung up on one little thing that could hold you up. We're going to go to our break, and my engineer is flagging me down here. We can stop for just a second, take a quick break. This is Indie Business Radio. We'll be right back with Kitara Wilson, the Writing Wonder Woman.
Want to stay on top of what's new in the radio industry? Sign up for a free subscription to the Future of Talk Radio, available exclusively to listeners of globaltalkradio.com, and find out what's new in the world of online radio. Listeners can find out about new shows and special guests. People with something special to offer can find out how to become a guest and how to prepare for an interview. And prospective hosts will find a valuable resource for everything from planning their new program to selecting topics and guests, recouping expenses by selling advertising, and more. Sign up today for your free subscription to the Future of Talk Radio by visiting www.globaltalkradio.com and learn about the future of talk radio today.
Radio. We're here with Kitara Wilson, the writing Wonder Woman, and she's been sharing a wealth of information with us on how to spruce up our email newsletters, make them relevant, make them exciting, and most of all, make them translate into increased sales leads and dollars for our business. Kitara, before we took our break, you mentioned spam.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of your tips on how to avoid being seen as, the gremlins of the Internet, spam?
The number one tip that I have for people, especially those new to publishing an e-zine, if you're thinking about it and you say, okay, I'm going to go for it, the number one tip that I have to give you is everyone that you meet out and about in a networking event or someone that you meet virtually online, every business card that you get with an email address or contact that you make online with an email address does not give you permission to add them to your list. Everyone you meet does not automatically go on your list. I have been added to countless numbers of lists because I met someone and we exchanged business cards, or it was a virtual introduction and they had my email address, and the next thing you know, I'm on their list. You can get reported as a spammer that way, and you do not want that. You don't want that stigma for your business, and you don't want to get slowed down and shut down when you're just getting started.
And Kitara, tell us how that happens. Is that a matter of somebody reporting to your email service provider that you're spam, and then they just basically flag you?
Yes, you are, as you continue to add people and you're sending unsolicited emails, which is what it is, because people have not asked you to be on their list and you have not gotten their permission to email them as frequently as you are, they are going to report you, and that in turn is going to cause you to get flagged as a spammer and it gets you possibly shut down. Your ISP can get shut down. All kinds of crazy stuff that can happen that you want to avoid it completely. And there was a business owner in my ebook that happened to her, and so she had to learn the hard way that everyone you meet doesn't go on your list. And that was her number one tip to people, is just get the permission and avoid those kind of troubles. Now, you might still get some people who will report you because they think you email them too much. So say you have a weekly publication, and then in between those regular publications, you might have some events that are coming up that you want to share with people about. Some people might say, she's just emailing me way too much, so I need to report her. I mean, as long as you're not getting a lot of reports, then you're okay. And most of those people who think that you're emailing them too much, honestly, will unsubscribe from your list, and, you'll just lose them. And don't take it personal. It's just that, people are overloaded with information these days, and they're just trying to cut back on the amount of information that they're receiving. Another tip that I have if you are publishing an e-zine is that, as we mentioned before, the difference between HTML and just text is I receive a newsletter from someone else who sends his e-zine out in text, and all of the content is there. And then somewhere in the content it says, if you'd like to see the pretty version of this email, click here. And there's a link, and then it takes you to his online version of the pretty graphics and color and all that good stuff e-zine. So that is another option. And he doesn't use one of the services like Constant Contact. You can tell that his is specially designed and built for him. So if you choose to go that option, you can give people a link that they can click on so that they can get to your special version of your e-zine. Or if you use, again, one of the e-zine or email marketing services, then you have the option to allow people to choose text or HTML. And another tip that people should be aware of is that spam filters, catch everything. There are certain words that the spam filters will automatically pick up and think that, oh, this is spam, so let me dump it into the bulk mail or the junk mail folder, and you won't ever receive it. So a trick that a lot of people are doing now is, say, for example, that you want to send something, and not just in your subject headline, but even in the content and the meat of your e-zine. If you have words like financial or freedom, then those words are spam triggers. So what you can do is put a little asterisk in the middle of the word somewhere to break up the word so that the spam filter doesn't catch that word, because otherwise if you just leave, if you want to learn about financial freedom, the spam filter will see the term financial freedom and be like, oh, this is some kind of get-rich-quick opportunity, it's spam. But if you put your asterisk in the middle of the word or somewhere in the word to break up the word, then the spam filter won't catch it, and you increase your chances of your e-zines getting delivered as opposed to getting dumped into the filter. So those are some little tricks that I have to share about publishing if you're interested in getting in publishing and not getting your e-zines tripped up in the spam filters.
Kitara, what are your words of encouragement for the indie out there who has been publishing a newsletter consistently, maybe every other week for a couple of months, and they're seeing subscribers trickle in like molasses? What do you
Keep at it.
That's hard.
Yeah, just keep...
I'm busy, Kitara. I'm making sugar scrub.
I'm sorry?
I'm busy. I'm making sugar scrub. I got to keep up with the shea butter. I'm keeping up with my kids. How do I know that this time that I'm investing on a consistent basis is eventually going to translate into, bread and butter?
Well, the truth of marketing, whether it's online or direct mail or, traditional, it doesn't matter. The truth is everyone is not going to buy from you right away. So in order to increase your chances of people buying from you, you have to consistently market to them. And, some of these services that are out there that offer email marketing, they offer tracking. So there is a way that you can track to see how many people are opening your emails, how many people are forwarding, how many people are unsubscribing. It's a great tool, but if you're looking at it to see if your efforts are translating into the moolah, then you're going to have to be consistent because, some customers may not buy from you for 6 months to a year. I have a colleague who was doing teleseminars for over 6 months, and it took a woman 6 months to finally contact her and say, I've been listening to you quietly lurking, and I'd like to do business with you now. It took her 6 months. Some people have taken longer, but you're going to have to continue to do the work in order for that to happen. And, I guess the indie mom is busy. She's got kids. She's got a husband. She's got a business. She's got a life to run. So that goes back to the time management piece of taking the time to decide how often you want to publish. If you're doing every other week, if that seems to be overwhelming, maybe you want to scale back to once a month. And then when you do that, sit down one Saturday afternoon when your husband is home and he can keep the kids occupied for a little bit, and plan out your calendar for the next, especially if you're doing monthly, plan out your calendar for the next year. That's just 12 issues that you can plan out of topics you want to talk about and what you can build around those topics. And that doesn't mean you have to write all 12 of your articles, but it does mean that you know ahead of time so that you can schedule the time in your calendar maybe a week before or a couple of days before the e-zine is scheduled to go out to write about it. You're not sitting down the morning of or the night before thinking, oh gosh, what am I going to talk about? And now I got to write it, I got to research it. If you know ahead of time what you're going to talk about, it's that much easier to sit down and write the content. Or if you're not writing it yourself, it's that much easier to go ahead and source out the information that you need to go ahead and put in the e-zine. So I think that the time management piece is important, as well as just sticking to it and being consistent, because you can't do it for a couple of months and you're not seeing the money and say, this doesn't work, it's going too slow. You've definitely got to give it some time.
Kitara, how do you leave your audience salivating for your next issue at the end of your current issue?
One trick that I've learned is that you keep them engaged and you keep them guessing or wondering, what you're going to do next. That could be maybe you're going to give something away. Maybe you have a little freebie that you do every now and again. They never know when you're going to do it, and people love to get free stuff. So if you have a little freebie every other issue or maybe every 4 issues. Just mix it up a bit. But they'll come to expect it like, oh, when is she going to give away that shea butter again? Or, oh, when is she going to give away that sugar scrub? I want some of that sugar scrub. Then, they're going to open the e-zine and they're going to read through it to find out, is she giving away a sample sugar scrub this month? If she is, I want in on it. So that's one way to keep them salivating. And another is to honestly give them so much great information that they absolutely just come to look to you as the expert for whatever it is that you do. They know that you are the source for what it is that they have a problem with, and that they can't get information from anybody else like they get it from you. And that comes down to just providing them with great content. And something I didn't mention before, when you're formatting your e-zine and putting it together, remember that your e-zine should be 75 to 80% content. And that means information that is going to help someone move their business or their life, if not both, forward. And then the other remaining 25 to 20% should be promotion of products, services that you offer, or if you're an affiliate and you're offering it for someone else. But the bulk of it should be content, because otherwise, if it's flipped and you're doing mostly promotion and then just a little bit of content, it's nothing but a big advertisement, and people are turned off by that. But if you're giving them really good meat that they can use and apply immediately, that's going to keep them, and it's going to keep them coming back for more.
Kitara, can you have a successful online business, a business that relies on 95 to 100% of its sales coming through the Internet? Can you have a successful online business without an online newsletter today?
I think you can if you are marketing in other ways, but I honestly can't see why you wouldn't have an e-zine. Because the number one thing with business, no matter what kind of business you have, online or in person, is that you've got to stay in touch with your customers. And I know for like the indie moms that are out there that are in direct sales, you hear the term constantly that the fortune is in the follow-up, and that applies to any business. So, once you get a sale from someone, you should stay in touch with them. That should not be the end of the relationship. So if you have a strictly online business, how else are you staying in front of people? How else are you staying in touch with them? Sending them each individual letters, that's really time-consuming. Picking up the phone to call all of them, that's extremely time-consuming as well. Email marketing gets you in front of hundreds, if not thousands of people in one shot. So, yes, you can be successful, but you're going to have to be marketing and staying in touch some other kind of way, and I just honestly don't know of any other way that you can stay in front of people, that many people, that easily in one shot, other than email marketing.
So you can do it, but you're making it harder for yourself.
Absolutely. And it's probably going to cost you a lot more because you're getting into things like probably Google AdWords or a lot of the other, there's so much stuff out there now for Internet marketing, and a lot of it is really good information, good products, good services, and systems to help you increase your online business. But a lot of those things can cost a fortune. Someone told me about something yesterday, and I looked into it, and just to check it out, and it's $99 a month. So, and then there's something else I heard about that's $150 a month. So you start looking at these things, and that can cost you a small fortune, whereas you're looking at with an e-zine where if you sign up with one of these email marketing campaigns, it could be as little as $15 a month. If you do text emails only, that's free. That's whatever it costs you to have your Internet provider, and you're sending it out through the email address that you already use. That didn't cost you a thing. But if you want to do HTML, $15 a month for depending on how many subscribers you have, and the rates go up a little bit, but it's definitely not going to be $99 or $150 a month. So I do think you're making it harder on yourself as well as more expensive.
Well, you heard it here first, Indies. If you don't have an email newsletter and you're trying to run an online business, you're running an uphill battle. And who wants to do that? We have too much else to do. Kitara Wilson, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your insights. Take a few seconds and tell us how we can find out more about you and subscribe to your newsletter.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Donna Maria, for having me. It was a pleasure to share with everyone. My website is www.writingwonderwoman.com, writing, W-R-I-T-I-N-G, and then Wonder Woman, like the comic book character, .com. And then for my ebook that has been mentioned, it's called Captivating Content, and that website is www.captivating-content.com.
And we can subscribe to your newsletter. How do we do that?
You can subscribe to the newsletter from the Writing Wonder Woman website. There is a sign-up box right there on the home page. And my e-zine is called Directly Speaking. Okay, great. Well, we'll be looking forward to that. Thank you so much. And, of course, thank you to my guest, indie co-host, Funlayo Alabi of ShayRadiance.com. Ladies, it's the start of the summer. I hope you have a good one. And you indies out there, I hope you'll join me next week, June the 2nd, when Robert Scrobb, author of the official Get Rich Guide to Information Marketing, will be here. And then coming up on June 16th, I've got Jeff Wario, author of The Complete Idiot's Guide to Retirement Planning, and I'm going to be picking his brain about small business retirement planning without all the bells and whistles and stress. I hope you'll join me for that. Have a great holiday. See you next week. In the meantime, enjoy your life, build your business, and have your way.
You're listening to GlobalTalkRadio.com.